Hello there, Forex Mavericks. This is Rob Reinhold. It is October 15, 2024. Let's jump into the market. In this session, we're going to go over what happened during the day. We did have some pretty big news, and then we're going to look through our market and analyze all the charts. And as always, we are pairing up the strongest against the weakest currencies, and those are the ones we hunt for.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
All right, let's go ahead and start off with the news of the day. We first got the UK claimant count change. There was a little more unemployment claims than expected, but really the market took it in stride and the pound really didn't do anything for the day. Probably the biggest news was a huge miss in Canadian CPI. Now remember, we just went through this bout of inflation and all the central banks raised their interest rates very quickly. This number, minus 0.4, is deflationary. This is really bad, and if you thought that a central bank was scared of inflation, wait until you see a central bank scared of deflation. They take it much more serious, they're much more aggressive, and so the market was looking for a 25 basis point cut from the Bank of Canada in the next meeting. It jumped immediately to a 50 basis point cut. Very likely that the Canadian central bank is going to be much more aggressive. That being said, the CAD dropped initially and then held in for the day. And then we did get a fairly decent pullback in the US equity market. It really was contained to just two sectors. The first sector that got hit really hard was semiconductors, down 5%. And this was on the news that the United States is thinking about limiting sales of AI chips to some overseas markets. And then the energy sector got really hit, and it got hit because Israel agreed to not strike Iran oil facilities. And that sent the oil market shooting higher early in the week. And so it's come all the way back down into the low 70s. Big pullback in oil today. If we take a look at what happened in the Forex market, we can see that the answer was not much. I've been saying this for the last 2 weeks, and this is why you have to trade the market in front of you. That's our biggest saying at Maverick, and you are going to hear me say it hundreds of times, if not thousands of times. Right now, the volatility in Forex is not good. It's just not good. And I've been saying that for the last 2 weeks. Either every Friday I'm pointing this out, or every time I do one of these daily outlooks. Look at this. There are 6 currencies in here, or 5 currencies in here, that are completely untradeable. Look, they didn't really go anywhere. The Aussie and Kiwi, okay, 0.3%, not that big of a deal. So if we take all of these, there was very limited opportunity to make any trades in, say, like, euro dollar, pound CAD, Aussie Kiwi, very limited. The only thing that's in play right now is the yen, and the yen is going up one day, 0.5%, 1%, and then down the next day, 1 or 2%. It is a both sides trade. It is really erratic right now. But if you are looking at a currency that's actually moving, it's only the yen. Everything else is really, really dead. Let's take a look at the other markets, some of the commodity markets and the stock market. Okay, you can see the SPX went down, the VT went down 1%. Basically, they gave up what they gained yesterday. So we are flat on the week. Crypto, flat. Gold up a little bit. Oil was the big story, down about 4% for the reasons we talked about just a little bit ago. Where we actually saw movement was in the crypto market. We're actually seeing better activity out of the crypto market. So I'm looking at this thinking, I'm a little bit more interested in cryptos right now than I am in Forex. Here's the problem. None of them look great, but we at least are getting moves. Just take Bitcoin, and we're going to take a look at the chart on Bitcoin. Bitcoin today had several 5% moves. I think it had a 3% move up, a 5% move down, and then a 4% move back up, and then a 2% move down. It's at least moving. Now look, it's not trending. So we have to understand that if something isn't trending, it can still be moving volatile enough for us to make some trades on it. Right now, Forex is not doing that. Really, the cryptos are the only market that I see that are giving us great opportunities for trades. I shouldn't say great, but just opportunities for trading. Let's take a look at the S&P chart. S&P chart today, we have a bearish engulfing candle. All right, this is a bearish engulfing candle. Now look, this is an ugly candle. If you were long the market, which I am long the market, these days stink. They just stink. Gap up, sell off all day long, and it's an ugly 1% down day. These things can happen, and they usually happen after runs, and it tells you that the run is over and needs to take a break, and we get a pullback. So if that is the case, we get a pullback to 57.70. That's going to be the first support line for these markets. But I just want to show you that we've had these kind of candles before in the past. If we go all the way back here to August, we see pretty much the same candle. We had just run up, made a new swing high, and you can see the next candle did not give us a red candle. If tomorrow is a red candle, then I will be like, okay, we are pulling back, and we'll probably have a couple more days down before we test some support. If tomorrow is a green candle, guess what? It didn't mean anything. It was totally meaningless, and I can completely ignore it. Regardless of what you look at here, this is a bullish market. Moving averages are rising. We're making new swing highs. Everything about this market is textbook bullish. So we're still at a +3. Still at a +3 on this market. Let's take a look at the news we have over the next 24 hours. We actually have some pretty good news over the next 24 hours. We've got the CPI tonight out of New Zealand. We have the CPI overnight out of the UK. And then we have Aussie employment change. So look, I'm really going to be focusing on the Kiwi, the pound, and the Aussie because with news coming up, news gives us an extra little burst of energy. As we're looking for things that have energy, we want to focus on the things that are the most likely to either have had energy in the recent past or going to have it in the recent future, and news events are a way to do that. So let's go ahead and look through some of these currencies and see which ones are the strongest and weakest. I'm actually going to start with the cryptos here, and I'm going to start with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is my favorite looking currency on the long side. And you can see the chart is starting to look much, much better. This is going back, 4 or 5 months, and you can see we have seen just a little bit of a downtrend going on here, and you can see we've actually broken out of this little downtrend line. We've broken out of this last resistance. It's looking better for the first time in a while. So I'm not saying it's the greatest looking thing I've ever seen, but I'm saying it definitely looks better than it did. So we are having a decent little move here, breaking out of this 66,000. But take a look at this day. This day was a wild day. Let me go down even smaller. If we take a look, we got a run from 65,000 up to 68,000, all the way back down to 64.7, then all the way back up to 67.4. So look, there's huge volatility here, and it's a very slow move higher. So how do you want to play these? You want to play either breakouts for a short amount of time, kind of like we got right here. Right here, a little breakout. You can ride those. But then again, you want to be very quick on exits. This is a very slow moving uptrend, but it's really choppy in between. Or you actually want to be a buyer. Whenever you see a big pullback, you want to start to be a buyer after it bounces. So again, this candle right here is a great little sign, confirmation candle. This would have been a great area right in here, 66,000 to take a long here. But you can see there was 1,000 points. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's 1.4%. It's a decent move, but it's nothing huge. Where we are right here, right now, this is a decent buy place. I mean, you could take a look at some of these things and say, okay, well, we got a pullback to a resistance level. What was resistance? Now it's held. It looks okay. The best thing here is that moving averages are moving up. This is a 1 hour chart. On the 4 hour chart, the moving averages are moving up. On a daily chart, the moving averages are starting to move up. For the first time, I have liked crypto better than Forex, and I really think we're going to see a run up to 72,000 here somewhere over the next week or two. When we take a look at all the other cryptos, they do not look all that good. Ethereum, it doesn't look, it's totally different than Bitcoin. We take a look at stuff like Bitcoin Cash. It's totally different. They're still at the bottom. They still haven't really made their turn. Litecoin is the closest one, but it's not quite there. So really, Bitcoin is the only thing I am interested in. And let's go ahead and take a look at the yen, because the yen is also the only thing really moving. Here's the crazy thing. Take a look at this daily chart. It just shows you how volatile the yen has been. Huge moves, and then we've had decent moves, but as I said, they've been one day up, one day down. And I think that's, if you're going to trade the yen, I think that's how you have to trade the yen. You have to look at these really short-term moves, because that's all that the market is giving us. So here I am on a 1 hour chart, and boy, this is right here, right now, moving averages are going up, but there's a ton of overhead resistance in here. I'm just not liking anything here. So like, yen is, like I said, was the only thing that's giving big enough movements to play, but it doesn't look like it's tradable. If I come over here to the dollar has just been high basing here. It has been creeping higher, but these candles just aren't tradable. Let's go look at the Aussie and the Kiwi. Well, let's take a look at the Aussie, Kiwi, and the pound, because they have news coming out. Here we are in a daily on the Aussie. It's between moving averages. It's definitely not a great trade technically. Looking at a 4 hour chart, if you made me go long or short, I would go short, because we have moving averages turning down here. We have some lower support that was tested. But here's the great thing. I don't have to make a trade. Let's take a look at Kiwi. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart first. Kiwi's not looking great on a daily chart either. Moving averages are flattening out. We came down, had a little bounce. We're headed back down. If we break this level, then all of a sudden I get very interested in Kiwi short. But right here, right now, I think it's a little early. If someone said, Rob, I want to take a short here because I think it's going to break down below this level. Okay, but if you trade like that where, hey, I think this is going to happen, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. As long as you have good position management, you can make a trade like this. But again, this just isn't it. Looking at the pound is grinding its way higher. Overhead resistance here. We got some long upper shadows telling us to be wary. And then even if it breaks through that, it's got a resistance right up here. It's got to get through two really big bands of resistance. So basically what I'm saying is I don't like Forex here at all. So here's our velocity score. So the things that did get a +2 are the dollar, Bitcoin, and the pound. Again, sometimes +2s are like +2 strengthening to +3, and sometimes they're like a 1.5. And that's how pretty much all of these are, except for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the best looking trade here at the moment. We already kind of went through that one. On the short side, what got a -2 was the Aussie, the Kiwi, and Bitcoin. So look, if you're looking to make a trade and you're like, I am going to make a trade, then that's what we got to focus on. We got to focus on pound Aussie and pound Kiwi. I think that's where the focus should be, or you can even look at dollar as well. All right, before we look at the pound against the Aussie or the Kiwi, let's pair up Aussie versus Kiwi and see which one is actually the worst or the best. So if we take a look at this daily chart here on Aussie Kiwi, we can see we pulled back for 4 days. We're getting a bounce. Look at the 4 hour chart. Pulling back, getting a bounce. So again, if I had to be long, if I had to be in this currency pair, I'd be long, which means that the Aussie is stronger than the Kiwi. So that means that the best looking pair would be pound versus Kiwi. And this is a decent looking chart here on a 4 hour chart. Take a look at the daily chart. You can see we're coming up here against this resistance. We break out of this resistance at 216. You can see that we potentially have a lot of room all the way up here to the 219. Now that's 300 pips, but that's 1.5%. That's a big enough move in here. Again, this chart is looking pretty decent, more decent than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't mean you should run out and make this trade. It means that it is the best trade in the market right now, which is kind of like buying the best house on the worst street. It's not like you're getting a great house. It's just the best house on a bunch of crappy houses. You don't need to make a trade. I think you should wait for that news to hit. So again, we got Aussie news and we got Kiwi news. Once that news hits, I think then you could get a burst of energy, which will make this trade a little bit more, a little bit more velocity to it. But again, if this, like I said, this is the best trade out there in the market. That doesn't mean it's a good trade. It just means it's the best at the moment. Wrapping this up, it's not a great market. That's the market in front of us. So be very selective in what you do. And to me, Bitcoin's the best looking trade out there right here, right now. So that's where I'm going to be focusing in the next 24 hours. If the Kiwi starts to weaken, pound Kiwi also looks interesting. But other than that, I am really checking out. Because again, the more you watch, the more likely you are to click a button. If you don't want to trade, check out. Stop looking at news, stop looking at charts. You're going to make a lot less trades in. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.